What's good, everybody? It's your boy, O'Shea Duke Jackson, back at it again with another episode of the Celebrity Junk. Myron Gaines has been enjoying himself at the Republican National Convention, and the Republican National Convention was in Milwaukee. And the Democratic National Convention will be, I believe, next month in Chicago. I cannot wait to get some of that footage. But needless to say, he's taking a photo with Rudy Giuliani. Now, Rudy Giuliani, if you guys don't know, he's an attorney, former mayor of New York City. He's come underneath a lot of problems and lawsuits in the last 5 years. But he's most known for the stop and frisk policy that really targeted a lot of blacks in New York City. And he's credited with being at least one of the best mayors or one of the most hated mayors. Okay. Now, Myron from Fresh and Fit basically interviewed him. All right. And I want to read this particular quote from Myron. Met the legend Rudy Giuliani. He put away the mafia, was one of the first prosecutors to implement RICO, and was responsible for cleaning up NYC when I lived there as a kid. F the haters and Fonnie Willis. I got a chance to interview him with Elijah Schaffer. So anyways, I'm not even going to go into the interview because it doesn't really matter. But I want to talk about the documentary that I watched the other day. It was called Inside the Middle Class 1968. It's a great documentary. It really talks about the division between the boule, if you want to say, in the Black American community that was lower class. It's still the same things happening today. But there was a brother who was a very successful guy living in DC. This was a brother that was, I believe, the president of the Urban League or high up there. He was from Camden, New Jersey, but he lived in Washington, DC. This story that you're going to see is so shocking.
Last summer, the entire nation was made aware of the violence that erupted in Newark, New Jersey. I happened to be attending a National Urban League conference in New York, and my family still lives in Newark. And so I decided to visit them on the way back to Washington. And I visited with my stepfather for about a half hour or so. And we decided to visit with a sister of mine. So as we were going from my stepfather's apartment over to a brother's house to get in his car and go visit a sister who lived in another part of Newark, as we were about to get into the car, about 3 carloads of Newark police came around the corner, and without warning, and to my knowledge, without any provocation from us, opened fire on us and a group of about 40 or 50 people who were standing on the stoop of this apartment building where my brother lived. And my stepfather was mortally wounded, and I had another brother who was wounded twice, who required an operation and extensive hospital care. And we were under fire, I would say, for approximately 10 minutes by the Newark police. They said they were looking for a sniper on the roof or the upper floors of the apartment building, but they were still firing at ground level range. And once I had an opportunity to collect my senses and really evaluate and think this thing through, it came through to me in stark reality that regardless of how far up the economic ladder any goes, that there's still this oppressive thing of prejudice that he's subjected to on the part of the white man here in America. And I realized that I was extremely fortunate not to be killed myself. And that even though I possessed 2 degrees, even though I had played football for Syracuse, even though I was an elementary school principal who had educated white children, even though I worked with white people in the Washington Urban League, even though there are white people that I consider close friends, that as the boys say, when it gets down to the nitty-gritty, right down to where it really matters. You're still a Negro, and you're still identified with every other Negro in America, be he in a ghetto or in a suburban neighborhood.
So that was Mr. Horace Morris. He served as the associate director in Washington, D.C. Urban League. You heard the chilling story of him visiting Camden, New Jersey. Remember, there were a lot of riots in the 60s in Camden, New Jersey. This is a college-educated man in the 60s. So, you know, there were very few college-educated African-Americans in the 60s in comparison to what you see today. This man was in Camden, New Jersey, going to see his stepfather. He's the associate director of the Urban League in DC. He walks outside his house to get into the car. The police show up and shoot 50 rounds of bullets his way. No reason why. Instantly killing his stepfather, who was also educated, and many others. The police say, well, we were trying to shoot up on the roof, but all the shots were on the ground. And he noticed something that day, that no matter how much success he had to whites, he was always going to be black. And unfortunately, this is something that Myron doesn't understand. You know, we have these blacks, the token blacks that are being used by whatever party it may be, liberals, Democrats, or Republicans. And you think that you're getting something by selling out your race or selling out your community on the behalf of them, only to find out you're just another bro. That's all you're gonna be. Well, let me tell you a story that I heard. I believe it was from Neely Fuller. In the 60s, there was a lawyer conference in Atlanta, and these talented black male lawyers were going upstairs for whatever reason, but they decided to use the elevator. A white woman comes on to the elevator, and she's dressed very inappropriately, almost like she's a clown. Okay, so these guys who have been educated formally, some of them went to Ivy League schools and things like that. Upon seeing her, they looked at each other and then they bursted out and started laughing. Once the elevator reached the destination that the woman was getting off of, she looked at them and said one chilling statement: "I'm still a white woman." And she walked off. And all of them were looking at each other in amazement because they all knew that it was true. And see, all of this selling out that a lot of these brothers are doing, putting down the black community and thinking that because, oh, you know, I'm a good nigga, I'm different from the others. You're not different from anybody. I can tell you that. I used to live in Poland, and that was kind of my perspective when I lived there. I was making more in medical school as a student than the dean of the school. I don't even want to tell you how much I made that year, but it was more. I made more than any doctor that taught me internal medicine, OBGYN, surgery. But whenever I would walk with Nigerian students or Zimbabwean students down the street, and some drunk Polish guy wanted to drive by and slout a racial slur, he never differentiated the fact that, oh, by the way, you over there, you're an African American, so you're okay. I only got those treatments when you got to the Border Patrol, or I'm taking a first class flight on Qatar Airlines or business class flight, then you would get treated well then based on the fact that you have a blue passport. But before then, you're still it didn't matter that I was a American or a black American. To them, it didn't matter. And that's how it's always going to be. So you can kiss their ass if you want. All you're gonna do is give them more ammunition to insult you later. I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna leave. I knew a guy that was, I don't even wanna call it the African country. He had a Polish girlfriend, and he would always go and tell her things about his country that was negative, for an example. And he would say things about the women in his community. He would say things, he would say it to us. So I asked him one day, I said, hey, do you talk like this to your young lady? He says, yes. I said, man, you should never tell her anything negative about your country members. To her, she don't need to know that. You should always tell her the good side about it. Well, anyways, she would never say anything at first. But when they would get into arguments, you wanna know what she would use? She would use the fact that you're here in Poland because your country is poor, your women are this, and he felt offended by it, but he'd opened up the can of worms. And so for people who are racially bigoted and you agree with them and you kiss their ass, all they're gonna do is turn that energy up onto you, and then you're gonna feel insulted. But you opened up that can of worms. You're better off sticking with your own group than going around amongst people who hate you. They're gonna hate you anyway. Why do you think I'm in Africa? Like, at least in America, You know, I would be successful still, but at least I feel like I'm not, everybody's black here for the most part. I'm not really judged based on the fact, well, you know what? I don't really like you because you're black. Everybody's black here. But in America, hey, you go and live in somebody's neighborhood, you don't know what they're saying about you behind your back. And you're trying to kiss their ass, ain't gonna help you get nowhere. They not gonna like you anyway. And as long as blacks and Africans realize that, y'all gonna always be lost. These people do not like you, and they never gonna like you. If they would, you would see a difference between me and you, us and them, in forms of monetary, in forms of wealth. The gap is not closed. It's never gonna close. As long as you have whites and blacks on earth, there's never going to be a closure of that gap, no matter how much you kiss their ass. And until you realize that, like the other groups, the Arabs realize that soon. Hispanics have realized that. The blacks are still looking for that token segmentation so that it can be closed. They want that segment to be closed, and it's not. It's not. The black community is still gonna get worse, as it always has been, until blacks understand what your position is to the whites and move accordingly. It is what it is. So guys, what do you think? It's your boy, City Jackson, back at it again with another episode of Celebrity Drunk. Appreciate you for all you do. Turn the bell. We're out.